My name is Scott Woods. I'm the Vice President of Business Development here at ITS, and this webinar is aimed at business leaders and decision makers and who want to make basically better cybersecurity decisions for their business. So if you're already with ITS, hopefully this helps you sleep a little bit better at night. But really, ultimately, the goal is to not let the hackers win and figuring out how do we protect our business. So today, let's just understand how the cybersecurity landscape has changed over the last 2 decades. We want to show you guys the growing number of cyber threats and how they've impacted businesses. And lastly, by the end, you should be able to understand how the decisions on cybersecurity are going to affect your business. So who remembers Minesweeper, right? This is the only time we had to worry about what we clicked on. But again, the landscape has changed. So when you click on something, it's going to open your vulnerability to the outside world. So back in the day, we had old types of, cyber threats. So there was the basic virus. So that was a malware that would replicate itself and spread onto other computers. Some people might remember the I love you virus that was spread via email and it affected millions of users back in 2000. Worms act similar to this, but instead of email, they're going to go across networks. So there was like the Blaster worm that exploited a Windows vulnerability back in 2003. Trojan horses. That's another kind of malware. So that's going to disguise itself as a legitimate software that your computer thinks is safe to install. There was the big Zeus Trojan that was used for banking info theft. We still have this today, but phishing attacks were still happening. So your bank or someone might be impersonating your bank to get you to log in to enter your credentials on a faulty website, only for that threat actor to then go and use them on the legitimate banking website and change that to lock you out. So that's still something to be aware of today. Be careful what you click. Lastly, denial of service. That's when there would be so many requests sent to a network or a service, it would essentially just shut it down. So Amazon had a big attack in 2000, but most networks are kind of able to mitigate these issues currently. So what does the current cyber threat landscape look like? Well, we all remember COVID-19. That's still very much here, and working from home is a lasting impact from that. So now we're increasing the landscape of where these cyber attacks can come from. So we've been reduced to smaller budgets, and we also have a shortage of good IT staff to keep us protected. So, it seems like cyber criminals are getting more sophisticated over time. And with this rise in remote work and all the digital transactions we're doing online, the attack surface for cyber attacks has expanded dramatically. So every industry has its own unique risks and cybersecurity challenges. So, if you're a healthcare industry, your reputation might be on the line through online vandalism, or if a threat actor decided to disclose all your company records, that would really, really hurt you. So other current cyber threats are malware, phishing attack, ransomware. That's, locking you from your own company data unless you want to pay, 10 Bitcoin to get access back to that. So insider threats, right? Someone sharing private information. Again, there's other denial of service attacks that are getting more sophisticated. And oftentimes we have people just using out-of-date software, people who have Server 2012 or older, people who have old Windows operating systems. There's known vulnerabilities out there that threat actors can take advantage of. So if you do have those on your network, it's important to keep those offline or really, really secure. So, what's happening with this poor cybersecurity? Obviously cybercrime is skyrocketing. So you can see here, on the graphs, in the middle one, it's most commonly going to be phishing and spoofing. So that's email vectors. I would say 95 to 99% of emails are going to be holding, or sorry, not 99% of emails, but 99% of threats are going to come via email and have, maybe just someone at the front desk or maybe one of your, trusted people in your organization click on those. You never really know unless you're doing regular simulated phishing emails or security awareness training for all your employees. So, we can see that up until 2028, we're still expecting cybercrime to continue to rise. So even if it hasn't affected your business or any business that could very well change in the future, unfortunately. So just some more figures on this. The number of ransomware attacks from 2018 to 2023 has gone up almost 20%, as well as reported email phishing and data compromises across the world. So everything is continuing to rise. So what happens if a threat actor gets in your business? What are these cyber threats going to actually do to your business? Well, number one, business continuity and financial loss. So you may not be able to continue doing business if you don't have access to your email, if you can't get on the business network, if you can't access critical key applications. You can't do any work, and that's going to lead to downtime and financial loss if employees are just twiddling their thumbs, not able to do anything. That's something you could definitely feel. What else can we feel? Obviously, the data and intellectual property breaches. So if you guys have sensitive data or any intellectual property that's valuable to your organization, if you guys lose that or someone else gets a copy of it, well, you're going to lose a lot of trust with your customers, and not only that, your business reputation. So they're going to not think that you know how to keep your company secret securely, and other companies may not want to work with you just from a reputation standpoint. So I kind of alluded to this in the first one, but operational disruptions. So you could have an entire organization crippled and all your users locked out of the crucial data they need, which would shut down an entire system. If you're manufacturing, that would limit your manufacturing. If you guys have intellectual property that you can't access, that would hurt you guys as well. Accessing client data in order to support your own clients. If you can't access your systems, you're not going to be able to do that, and you can't operate. That's going to really hurt you. So in addition to that, there's actual legal ramifications if you do get hit with a cyber attack. So PCI compliance, HIPAA compliance. If you're falling out of those compliance and you get caught, with a ransomware, there are additional fines and fees associated with that. So more cybersecurity vulnerabilities, weak passwords and poor authentication. I think most of us have to remember really over 100 passwords. There's so many things we're logging into, from social media to our work accounts to banking, our personal life, whatever it is, to pay our bills. There's so many passwords, and unfortunately, as humans, we tend to repeat those. If you use your pet's name and the date of your birthday or something like that in combination with like an exclamation point, you might be on this webinar listening and thinking, oh crap, that is me, just because we're all human and we all kind of operate the same way. So it's really kind of easy to guess people's passwords, surprisingly, and most people are repeating passwords. So if, let's say, your data was breached on some other website and you lost those credentials because some threat actor was able to gain access to those, and you use that same password on your business email, and someone's able to figure out that, hey, you work here, and I'm going to test these passwords that I found on the dark web and see if I can get into your business email to attack this business. That's going to be a big issue. So poor authentication, right? That's not having multi-factor authentication set up. Every single person in your organization should have multi-factor authentication set up to access the business network. So, if they're logging into a company email from a new location or from home or from a new device, they should be hitting with the multi-factor authentication. So a ping to their phone or however they need to authenticate that in a second way. We highly recommend that. MFA cuts back on 99% of ransomware attacks. So you can use that in your personal life as well, making sure that all your banking and your personal Gmail or AOL or Yahoo email also has multi-factor authentication set up, is going to greatly reduce your risk. Because if someone gets access to your email and they don't have MFA set up and they log in, well, that means that they can go to all your other accounts that you're using that same email to log into and hit reset password. So they'll reset passwords for all your applications and all of the sites that you're using. During that time, you're currently fighting to get access back just to your email account. So it's really, really critical that at least on your personal email and especially your business email, that you make multi-factor authentication, a mandatory policy. So I can't touch on that enough. I mean, I tell everybody I meet, do you have multi-factor authentication? Two-step, do you have something to increase that authentication security? So I'll stop about that one. Outdated software, hardware, are you patching your systems? Do you have a lot of users in your organization that just haven't restarted their device in a couple of weeks because, they've just been too busy or they didn't want to push that software update? Well, it's really, really important that you push those updates to your computer, because unpatched systems are going to have known vulnerabilities that threat actors can use to, hijack your system or, infiltrate the network in some way. So that's very, very important. If you don't have someone doing that already, make sure that every single month someone's checking to make sure every machine is backed up, secure, and has an up-to-date operating system on it. So another vulnerability might be inadequate security policies or procedures. What do you do if you spot a phishing email? Are your employees all trained on how to respond to that? Are they going to click and investigate themselves and look into it and potentially open, let's say, a PDF file that opens, disappears really quick, and then they just move on without their day? Or have they had the proper training, and do we have the policies in place to say, hey, you see something fishy, you just mark it as phishing or report it to IT and don't even deal with it? These simple changes and informing your employees on how to treat those types of things is going to make a big impact on your business. So that really kind of takes us into our last point, is the lack of employee training and awareness for a lot of organizations. Are you doing monthly, quarterly, even just at least annually security awareness training? I know we all do sexual harassment training and HR training and other types of stuff to keep us safe, but how are we staying safe in a digital world? Everything we do is on a computer most often, sending emails, communicating with clients on Teams meetings, sending sensitive data back and forth. Is everyone in your organization to the same level of standard that you would expect yourself to be at with that security awareness? If not, I would highly recommend looking at some kind of training, sending simulated phishing tests to your employees. So that would be like, hey, this is, Microsoft, you got to log in right now to reset your password. There should be some red flags set off in an email like that, but let's see how many users are going to click on an email like that and really set the baseline for, your organization's, let's say, phish prone percentage. You want to be able to go on vacation and know that, even your lowest level employee isn't going to be a vulnerability to your company, that they're not going to click on a phishing email and suddenly lock down your entire business network. So, while you're somewhere far away trying to deal with, while none of your customers can get a hold of you. It's a nightmare scenario. No one wants to experience that. There's a lot of things you can do, which is what we're talking about today, to reduce your exposure that way. So we really base our framework off the NIST cybersecurity framework. So the National Institute of Standards and Technology released their CSF, which is their cybersecurity framework, and it's version 2.0 right now. That actually came out this year, February 26, 2024. And this is generally a guide for all businesses now on how they can make decisions to improve their cybersecurity stance in their business. The previous version really applied to large organizations, more enterprise, government, healthcare. But now they've expanded it to include everybody because, we've seen how cyber threats have just continued to go up over the last few years with, working from home and all this other stuff. So they kind of put this great graphic together, and we'll sort of walk through some of the important points to touch on. And this is how we build our framework model to protect our businesses. So starting with identifying, right? How do we understand all the critical assets and the parts of operations of our business? So listing out all the technology you have and all the data that needs protection is a great place to start, right? Understanding who has access to what machines assigned to what user, this user logs in at this workstation, all the technology should be accounted for. So moving down, protecting that technology. So how do we implement security measures like strong passwords and antivirus? How do we train our employees on these security protocols that we're talking about? Are we doing regular phishing training? Are we doing just, hey, maybe we meet every once in a while and we just talk about security, really having a procedure in place and making sure you have strong antivirus and email security is going to help protect you. So you got to have that in place. So once you're protected, well, what if something does get through? Because, there's no such thing as just, perfect antivirus. We've gotten a lot better, and now that we can use AI, we're able to kind of look for different anomalies and not just look at, let's say, the wanted posters, which is how antivirus used to work back in the day. We had all these known threats, and the antivirus would say, hey, I could look at all these. Do you look like that? No, you don't. Okay, you're good. But unfortunately, threats are changing and evolving so quickly that you need to use some kind of AI to essentially detect those anomalies more than just looking at the list of known threats. So make sure to monitor your systems for those signs of cyber threats. Use all kinds of detection tools. Using Microsoft, there's a lot of tools within Defender you can use to set up your detect. But we can talk more about that later. So once you've detected a threat actor on your network of some kind of malware, how do you respond to it? That's the fourth point. So how do you have a clear plan for containing and managing that cyber incident? Are you isolating it on a certain part of the network, or did it unfortunately infect a part of the network that's going to, affect all users? So how do we who do we contact next? How do we communicate to our staff? How do we communicate to our clients during an attack? Do we have a policy in place to say, hey, we will pay this ransomware up to X dollar amount, or we won't pay any ransomware, and here's the next steps we're going to take? If you don't have that written out in your business and you're trying to figure it out on the fly, you'll probably make some really bad decisions. So having a plan in place on disaster recovery and ransomware is super duper important. We make sure to implement that for all of our clients and have that documented, that clear path. I will say that everyone's plan should be to not pay ransomware. More companies that pay ransomware is going to make cybercrime more profitable, which unfortunately is going to lead to more cyber attacks, which is going to put your business at risk even further in the future, or other businesses. So we can all collectively, as small and medium businesses, reduce the profitability of cybercrime by putting this framework in place. So, the recover to this respond. So what strategies do we have to restore those disrupted services and data? Do we have backups in our server? Do we have our data in 3 different locations just in case something really bad like this happens? Are we able to put our company in a metaphorical time machine and go back in time to before that threat occurred? These are the types of things your IT person should be thinking about. But if you're the sole business leader, making sure you're partnering with someone who understands the technology and how to protect your business and keep it moving forward post an incident. So lastly is govern. So how are we looking at our cybersecurity practices within our business? If you're just a 5-man shop, that may be the owner of the business looking at every year, how do we update my security policies? How do we oversee the effectiveness of the entire security of my business? As a small business owner, you need to be able to understand how the decisions about your technology affect your cybersecurity. So that's really what govern defines. So this document is many, many, many more pages, but this is the most high level explanation we can provide of this cybersecurity framework. And this essentially drives all the decisions we make on protecting our clients. So one thing I want to touch on quickly, which is part of an exciting future, and this is towards zero trust security. So essentially, you would say if you don't need access to it, you don't get access to it. And that's a great way to protect your business, because it could help ensure that a threat actor who may gain access to, let's say, a low-level employee's email account isn't able to access, let's say, sensitive HR information or sensitive client data, or let's say executive management data. Keeping their permissions limited to just what they need is essentially what zero trust is. So you might have application control and say, hey, these are the 20 programs we use in our organization, right? QuickBooks, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. These are the only ones that can ever be installed. on your computer. And this is great because that means any threat actor who's trying to install their malware or any other piece of software on your computer that's going to get them the edge, they simply can't do it because you have application control and nothing else could possibly ever be installed. So that's zero trust. If you don't need it, you don't get access to it. Why do your employees need to, install something that they don't need access to? This is like Angry Birds, right? Like, you don't want your employees being able to go in and install any app they want. You'd obviously like to be able to limit that, so they're not playing games at work and they're not being distracted by other stuff, or essentially letting threat actors getting the ability to install their stuff on your computer. Lastly, you can also do ring fencing. So this you've probably seen when you're installing like an app on your phone. It's going to ask for all these permissions, like, hey, I need access to the network, or I need access to all your contacts, I need access to your camera. You can block those permissions, and that's kind of what ring fencing is you're taking zero trust and you're making it more granular. So each component of that software or that tool or that application or that system, you're only giving it certain pieces of the pie. You're not giving it the whole slice, the whole cake. So thinking about zero trust in that perspective, and limiting what you're giving access to, and what systems have access to what, is a great way to preventing threat actors from infiltrating your entire network, because maybe they get in one alley and then it's a dead end because you've set up this sort of zero trust in your business. So why would you ever want to work with ITS for any of this? Well, we've been doing this for over 25 years. We've been getting a lot of 5-star reviews that we're really proud of. We've been able to handle quite a few cyber incidents, a handful of times a year. We're able to protect our businesses by essentially rewinding any security incidents that we've dealt with. Our white glove support is different than most other providers. So we're going to be focused on providing that personalized solution that aligns with your specific business goals and requirements. So we're going to be constantly updating your plans, making sure you're up to date, and we're going to provide you the best possible service, of any other organization in this area. That's what makes us different, is we're going to actually identify what the needs of your organization are and make sure that we can apply a strategy towards those needs. So we do have a dedicated team of experts here. So we have trained technicians who are staying up to date with the latest cybersecurity trends, in conjunction with our advanced cybersecurity measures, which includes our software and the vendors that we partner with to stay ahead of this. And lastly, we provide security. Every business we work with, so if there's any current, MSP clients on this meeting who work with us, just understand that our whole goal is to help you grow. So if we can make sure that every time you come into work and everything's just working, and that we don't have to have these nightmare moments of, hey, I'm locked out of my systems because we got hit with a ransomware attack. If we can make sure those are never happening and you just have peace of mind, that's really what we're trying to provide. So you can focus on what you're good at in your business, and ITS can focus on the security and the technology part of it. The less you're thinking about it, the more you can focus on the stuff that's actually going to help grow your business. So if you want to get protected today, here's our contact information. You can call our main line to schedule a free assessment. You can also shoot us an email or check out our website at itstelecom.com. One thing that we'll do when we come into your business is we're going to do an audit on your Microsoft 365 environment. We're going to look at your security policies, kind of check your health score, see if there's some real big issues in the room, and then we can also check your network. So we'll do a complimentary network assessment, see any vulnerabilities, look at the machines that you have on site, and generally kind of make a plan going forward based on how you'd like to proceed.